Good morning and happy Monday, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Family Wealth and Other Musings. I am your host, Becky Easton. And today I want to talk a little bit about community and the power of community and how I am essentially a different person than I was 6 years ago. And the community that I live in is mostly to blame for that, if you will. Allow me to explain. So I grew up in Tucson, born and raised, went to the University of Arizona, moved up to Phoenix for a couple years after that, and decided that I wanted to go to law school. So we moved up to Denver, Colorado, where I went to the University of Denver. And while we were out there, we moved in 2008, best time ever to have picked up and left good jobs and gone somewhere new, but there we were. We were there for about 8 years, and the tide there just kind of kept rising. The housing market went crazy. It turned out that if you were living on the coast in 2008, let's say, and then when the market crashed, you all of a sudden couldn't afford to live on the coast, but you had a good pedigree or a degree from a Ivy League school, let's say. Well, it turns out you could just move wherever kind of seemed like a good place to live. And Denver was definitely that place for a lot of people. So the housing market came right back up, was just booming. And my husband and I got just a little bit worn out of having the tide rise. We'd get our noses just above water, and then again, tide rises, and it just turned into a little bit more of a struggle to make it out there than we would have liked. And my husband finally had the come to Jesus talk with me and was like, I think we should move back to Arizona. So we packed our bags, came back here, and started looking for places to live. And at the time, we were staying at my grandmother's condo. She had recently passed away, and my parents hadn't done anything with her condo yet. So we took that over, and we're there in South Scottsdale, just a really excellent place right near Old Town. Lots going on if you wanted to go out, and not so much. I mean, we were back in our usual MO of not really knowing our neighbors, like being friendly. If you see them out, you have a little bit of small talk, but otherwise you get home and you go inside, and we weren't really involved at all in the community. But that's par for the course. That's nothing unusual for us. I think it's been that way in almost every house that I've lived in. I've known of the neighbors, but not necessarily been friends with them. So we were looking primarily at new builds for places to live, and we toured a bunch of different communities, and nothing quite worked out. It was either way too far away from a freeway, too hard to get around in, or one home that we liked, the loan just fell apart. It just didn't work for some reason, and whatever it was, it just wasn't the right spot. So it was my mother-in-law who had seen something about Eastmark, and which was a newer community at that time. I think they had only been selling homes for 1 or 2 years at that point. And so we went to check it out. They're building a big, master plan community with the idea that, it would be, how many doors? Anyway, we have about 20,000 residents now. So it was going to be, a fairly large place within about 5 square miles. and with retail and restaurants and things was the big grand vision. And it sounded really neat to me. And so we looked more seriously, signed on one lot that we liked. We actually tried to live on Easton Lane, and unfortunately we kind of had a little falling out with the builder and didn't really like some of the things they were doing right up front, and so broke that contract and ended up moving across the neighborhood and picking a different builder. So that's actually one of the really nice things about this neighborhood, is that it's not limited to just one builder. There are, gosh, how many? 11 builders or something like that who have been involved in the Eastmark project. So, the houses don't all look the same. And even within a neighborhood that's had the same builders, the houses don't look the same. The elevations and the coloring and the style of the facade are all a little bit different from each other and separated. Similar ones are separated by a different style of house as well. So you don't have that like house farm look that I feel like a lot of HOAs got the rap for. And so, like I said, we liked the idea of a master plan community, but it wasn't necessarily like what we were looking for, right? Like, I had a couple friends up in Denver who had their bubble of about, like 1 square mile or so, where everything was there for them. And so, they lived, they worked, they shopped, they had their coffee shop where they met everybody. Whatever that was all right there. And I was like, well, that's really cool for you. I don't know that I'm looking at that for me, but, I'm not looking for that either. And so like I said, I like the idea, but wasn't necessarily like we were looking for it. But I definitely was craving some type of community. And that is exactly what we have gotten here. From the moment that we signed a contract and were welcomed on to the neighborhood Facebook page, people were genuine and nice and wanted to get together and get to know each other. People were really excited that they were moving out into this brand new community with an opportunity to, be friendly and get to know everybody. And I loved that. It was so fun initially because everyone kind of was having the same experience. You'd run into someone and it's like, oh, where are you building? What tile are you looking at? Kind of silly things like that. And that's actually one of the things with my law firm. I work primarily with neighbors and their friends and family, and we frequently go to meet people at their houses. And that's one of my favorite things, is going in and seeing, oh, that's the tile I was looking at. Even now, like 6 years later, I still remember some of it. Oh, those cabinets, yeah. I like how you've done that with the granite and the backsplash, and it's super fun because now we have a lot of people who are buying houses that they didn't build, but that very beginning of it was just really, really a unique experience that we all shared together. One of the other kind of really special things I think about Eastmark is that everybody wants to support their neighbors. If you have a business and you do anything of service that neighbors can use, then they want to work with you. And there's a very strong pull to know what your neighbor does and how either you can use them or you can promote them. Like I mentioned, our neighborhood Facebook page, we have Work It Wednesdays. Got a little out of control with some people posting about their business like constantly, and so we've limited it to, I say we, like I'm in charge, I'm not. We limited it to only posting about your business on a Wednesday. It's funny because not even then, that's the only time you can self-promote, but as people are asking questions, otherwise, everybody else, anyone who's worked with you is kind of tagging you in the post and, wants to, oh, I worked with Becky, or, oh, I worked with Calvin who does HVAC. He fixed our AC for us. Oh, I worked with Billy. He built a barn door for us. All the chiropractor or primary care or holistic care and people in the neighborhood. Definitely worked with them, highly recommend. And it's been a really amazing organic way to build a business just with neighbors and friends and other people who want to see me succeed or want to see anyone. It's not just limited to me. So I had mentioned that previously I was never very involved, if you will. And now that has completely shifted. One of the things that Eastmark does, that the Community Life Group does, is run a leadership program every year. I believe they're in year 8 now. And when I first learned about it, I was definitely in the middle of a big kind of personal growth push for myself, trying to learn a lot about just how to be a better person, right? I think we can all do that. And learning a bit more about leadership with my neighbors and getting to know other people who lived near me as well was a really intriguing idea to me. So I'm a graduate of class 4, and I encouraged my husband to do it the next year. So he is a graduate of class 5, and it was really a unique opportunity to really get to know the neighborhood and understand about the development of it, and while learning more about leadership. And we also completed a project that was meant to serve the neighborhood as well. Like, if you've participated in a leadership program before, maybe like the Mesa leadership program through the city, or the Bar Association actually has a Bar Leadership Institute that here in Arizona that I've been interested in taking part in. But it's fairly similar. You learn about leadership, you work together, make yourselves and each other better, and you do a community service project usually. And so anyway, it's a really neat way to help get people informed about the neighborhood. Like I said, we have about 20,000 people living here now. There's no way one community life group can tackle all of that. Like, you need other people who are informed, who know where to get the answers, who already have the answers, who can stand up, especially when we have, as I mentioned, a robust Facebook group. It's very active, and if you know anything about Facebook groups, you know that a lot of the negative comes out and a lot of kind of misinformation can rise to the top. And so it's important to have people, who know a little bit better, or at least know where to ask to help others get that information. So I took part in that, got really even further interested in how the community runs, like going to HOA meetings and additional development meetings and anything just to learn more, and really got to know the staff and the developers. And another thing that kind of makes this community unique is how many stakeholders, as in people who work for the developer or work for major companies that are around us, influential people in Mesa, who live in this neighborhood because they believe in the vision of it so much, right? That's kind of unheard of for developers to live in the neighborhood, but so many of them actually do. I'm also the first elected director to the HOA board, the Eastmark Residential Association, We have 3 different boards out here. One that is kind of typically what you think of when you think of an HOA, the violations and community standards and all of that. So that is the board that I am on. Then we have 2 other boards, the Assembly and the Alliance, who are responsible more for the kind of communications and fun events that are planned around Eastmark when it comes to the Assembly. And then the Alliance handles more of the kind of commercial landscapes and public settings in Eastmark. If you had known me previously, you might laugh heartily again at the fact that I was not very involved, didn't really want to be necessarily. I worked for an HOA law firm for a small while, a few years. And boards and HOA governance both can go so many different directions, right? You can have overzealous ones that are a little bit crazy and micromanagey, and then you can have ones that just are great and awesome to work with and communicative and fun. The idea that I was going to be willfully volunteering to do this was amusing to many people, but again, like I said, I think I was just craving some sort of community, and this has really been one that I can get behind. Neighbors have been quite supportive of my business. I have the pleasure of working with neighbors and friends and the people that they know and love, and I just am in such a different place than I was about 6 years ago. And sometimes it's, I like just to kind of think about, how would my life be different? I don't know. I'd probably be in a similar space, but I just don't know. And so one thing I would love is that I'd love to hear about your community and what your neighbors are doing or not doing to make your area awesome. I'd love to hear it. I hope you leave me a comment on that or reach out otherwise to let me know. I just really support the idea of being together and helping each other, because this isn't, we can't make it alone in this world. Having help and having someone who supports you just because you happen to live in the same area is a pretty impressive thing. Having that little bit of support has done wonders, I think, for me, for my mindset and my ability to build a business and things like that. So many others too. So I hope you'll let me know, and maybe if you're listening and you also live in Eastmark, I would love to hear from you, especially if we haven't already met. Other than that, I'd love to hear from you. As I said, if you live in another great community, I'd love to hear about it, or if you'd like to chat a little bit more about maybe how to do some cool things in your community. What is it that we do that I can help you with? So, Family Wealth and Other Musings is now available for download on most platforms. So wherever you get your podcasts, right, you can find me. And if you felt so inclined to support the show by liking, following, subscribing over on Red Circle, or donating, or even just leaving a review wherever it is you're listening, I would honestly appreciate it. It will ultimately help boost the show and help more people find me and help me talk to more people. And also, if you ever have an idea for an episode or something that you'd like to hear more about, I'm all ears, and I definitely encourage you to reach out. So thanks again for listening in today and hearing all about this awesome community that I live in. And this has been Family Wealth and Other Musings. I'm your host, Becky Easton. I hope you have a great day.